I'm gonna give you the best plyometrics if you want to improve your agility. Let's get into it. So what we'll be able to do is I'm gonna actually break this into 3 different categories. Number 1, we're gonna go into our prep. Number 2, we're gonna go into our foundational plyometrics, which we can intensify. And then we'll get into our more specific or intent-focused plyometrics. So if right off the bat, we're gonna get into our prep series. These are plyos that we perform every single day that we're focused on change of direction or agility. So the first series that we're gonna go through is gonna be a lateral power shuffle. Now, you might think of a shuffle as just, a simple change of direction movement, but these are all in a bounding fashion. That means I want the athlete to be able to produce as much force putting their foot into the ground as they do these to really elevate that lateral change of direction, which will then transfer over to when you start integrating with more agility drills. So what I'm looking for here is for the athlete to really sink their hips. I need them to bend their knees. Athletes tend to want to stand up in this regard and be able to push off. Now, there is variations and sometimes I have them perform that, but I really want them to sink into their hip and be able to push off laterally. So I'm looking for them to be able to bend, and I want them to push off and drive as far as they can fluidly. Now the next progression from that is going to simply be a crossover bound. What I'm looking for the athlete to do is completely stay square to wherever they're facing. I want their toes to stay forward. I want to take what range of motion they have. I want them to cross over, step, and then from this position right here, be able to produce force driving off with that hip abduction. So I'm here. Driving off every single time. Now the next progression is gonna be our karaoke for power. We call this power karaoke, whatever you wanna call it. The biggest thing here is we're not staying square. I want the athlete to produce maximal force by swiveling the hips, right? And being able to get a biggest range of motion that they possibly can. Again, just like any of these drills, we have many different variations. We could do a karaoke quick step where we're focused on the speed of that action, syncing up the opposite arm. We can focus on a karaoke, right? Where we're going for quick and not as high of a knee. For this particular one, we're focused on range of motion and we're focused on power with every step. So it'll be a big swivel, big pop, big swivel, big pop all the way down. Again, every step I take, I'm trying to produce big force into my next step. And then last but not least for our prep series is one that I absolutely love for all my athletes. It's just gonna be a lateral push off. So this is where we can really start to isolate a specific movement of that athlete being able to stab their foot into the ground and be able to focus on pushing off. Very similar to that lateral power shuffle. However, the athlete is focused on being able to maximally put their foot in the ground as opposed to slide and push. So this particular one, I want the athlete on the outside leg, need to come up to hip level, right? Focus on pushing and sliding as far as they can. That's the last drill in our prep series. Let's get into the next progression. All right, so the next set of plyometrics are gonna be our foundational, is gonna be our skater series. Now I'm gonna go over a couple of these real quick, and then I'm gonna show you how we can progress them pretty rapidly. So number 1, when we start off with the foundation, especially in the prep phase, it's just gonna be your standard skater jump. This is where the athlete's gonna be facing on a cone, right? They're gonna jump into the other leg, right? And they're gonna land and stabilize and try to stick that landing, right? All my momentum's going that way, whether I'm going vertical or I'm going pushing off directly laterally. The biggest thing we wanna focus on is being able to stick that landing in that opposite leg. So the athlete would be here, big jump, stick, control, big jump, focus on sticking, controlling. Now again, ways I can progress this is if the athlete is landing under center of mass or outside center of mass. The next progression to that is going to be a reactive. So this is where the athlete is actually going to give me a big jump and then focus on getting back to that original position by putting their foot in the dirt, being able to reduce ground contact time and be able to get back to that original position as fast as they can. So it's here, boom, and then get back as fast as they can. Now, again, just like any progression, we could go where the athlete is landing over center of mass. We could go where their landing foot is outside center of mass. The biggest thing is we want to be able to react and get back to that original position. Now the last progression to this is going to be our continuous series. This is where the athlete is focused on being able to get back and forth with zero pause, going back and forth. So it's just gonna be continuous jumps, boom, and being able to go back and forth. We could progress this in many ways. We can have the athlete reach with the opposite hand. We can have the athlete hold a medicine ball to be able to reach the cone. We could spread the cones out. We can make this ascending, so the athlete has to progress, boom, and come back, boom, and come back, and continually progress that for amount of yardage. And then we can also progress it by adding something like a vertical hop in it, and then slide, and then be able to continuously produce force from that lateral and vertical standpoint. Last but not least, you can take all those same skater jumps and you can start to progress them lateral with a linear fashion, right? So as opposed to me just going lateral, what I can then do is I can have a series of cones where the athlete is now pushing forward, right, horizontally, while they're pushing lateral. So it's focused on being able to jump up, boom, stick that landing. I can go to reactive, right? And I can go into a different series there to be able to continue to progress our foundational skater series. All right, and finally is the last series of drills where we get a little bit more advanced, a little bit more specific to the athlete. And just like any of these, we can add new wrinkles and continue to intensify them. But what we want to be essentially be able to do is we want to start pairing our lateral with our linear with our lateral, and focusing on those basic cuts that the athlete is making in sport, right? So if it's a football athlete, let's say I'm training a wide receiver, right? That athlete, when they go to plant, is either gonna plant hard, decelerate, plant 90, right? Plant 45 into that Y, be able to step back and start coming back. So all of these movements, right? Through the foot and ankle, through the knee, through the hip, we can start to enhance with more jumps, with more plyometrics. So what's that look like? So number one, we can go into our single leg broad series where we can go into a 45-degree cut. And again, our whole thing is to be able to intensify and enhance that specific cut with more power, more deceleration, right? And then also more power getting out of the cut. So again, what we're trying to enhance is be able to support that deceleration, be able to make that subtle change within the foot to be able to then produce max power going in the direction that the athlete wants to go. So our first one could be a simple Y, where the athlete's attacking the cone and being able to explode out, bang, right? We could turn it into a more aggressive 90-degree, right? Where the athlete has to attack this cone just like they would as if they were cutting. Again, we're just amplifying it through jumps. So we can go single leg broad to 90, bang, right? We can have the athlete externally rotate at the femur, where they're here, boom, push out, land. I can even have the athlete land and stabilize on a single leg. So I'm here, boom, and then stick. Again, if I have a basketball athlete and they want more of a jump back, I could do just that. I can have an athlete here, attack, boom, and push it back and be able to face here. Again, everything we're doing is amplifying that deceleration, right? With the same body position, same way that that foot and leg would attack the ground. So there you have it, guys. There's 3 different tiers of plyometrics to be able to overall enhance an athlete's ability to change directions, which will then overall enhance their ability to display more agility on the field, court, whatever sport it is. So make sure that you're incorporating a series of those within every single week of your training sessions to be able to overall enhance that. I hope that helps. If you're interested in full agility program, check out the link down below. Talk to you guys next time.